said, I'm going to just tell a personal story and try to weave in some of the themes from the presentations so far. And starts about a week after the election, when I had recovered from the illness that descended on me the day after. I just, with perfect understanding that my physical condition mirrored my psychic condition. And I started to think about, what can I do now? What do I do now? What can I possibly do now? And I decided that I was going to start posting to my friends on Facebook basic, practical, daily security recommendations. And I started by saying, there are 64 days until the Trump inauguration. Turn on two-factor authentication on your online accounts. And then I went through, there are 62 days until the Trump inauguration. There's 63 days until the Trump inauguration. Download Signal or WhatsApp and put it on your phone. There are 61 days. Connect your desktop computer to your Signal client so that you're using these messages. And I started doing this each day, asking, what is the thing that I need to do, and that I would recommend to my friends and family that they do. That is the most reasonable, smallest thing that I haven't already taken care of. And so walking through using encrypted messaging and account security and other ways of reducing the visibility of our lives to digital surveillance. And it got more and more expansive from there. I had a post about location privacy, in which I concluded that it's basically a lost cause at this point. That Deus Dulles' advice is now probably wrong, in that we are so visible. We leave so many traces out behind us when we go anywhere, from Easy Pass to facial recognition cameras to Hoxton's tracking of our shoes. It is essentially impossible to go somewhere for a face-to-face meeting without leaving behind traces that would be visible to somebody who looked hard enough. And I decided, I talked about Tor and about encrypted email and concluded that these were not realistic solutions for most people, although they might be for some. And I continued through this, and I ran out of steam probably with a few weeks to go and had to stretch it out through increasingly strained recommendations about somehow including ideologically diverse charitable giving as a security recommendation. And it's really just about what you can do for yourself to feel connected to society and to help cope. And during the course of this, I got questions from friends. Some of the questions were very much engaging with the specific recommendations. They'd be able to ask for, where can I learn more? And so I got into the habit of basically trying to do research on everything, to not just say you should turn on this security feature, or not just pick good passwords, but try to find the academic papers and the practical guides on good passwords. And as a result, a lot of what I said was very convergent. The things that I put in this series are really convergent with what Tactical Tech recommends. This is the kind of thing in which you can't get definite answers. There are not clearly right things to do in all situations, but people who are thoughtfully engaged in this tend to come in across the same sets of issues and confront the same trade-offs. People would ask, does this really apply to me? I don't have blah, blah, blah to hide. And in some cases, the answer would be, well, you may not feel that you are at risk, but could you be protecting somebody else? If it came to the situation where you were sheltering somebody who was at risk of being imprisoned or deported, if they were found by the authorities, would your digital trails be sufficient to cover up the fact that you were doing this? And I think people could expect there are states of the world they could get into in which it would be important to them to be able to provide that level of security, because if you're not prepared to shelter somebody and take on the responsibility of keeping them safe, your ability to offer them shelter in the first place with a clear conscience is really compromised. People also asked, will this do any good? Like, aren't we just hosed anyway? Or is it really that bad? Do you really think we're going to a police state like 1994? And this forced me to think about what I thought was going to happen. And partly this helped calm me. It helped me deal with the fact that the sun still comes up and we are going to be dealing with life, and it goes on. We have to make the best of this situation, and we don't know exactly where things will go. I had articulated a range of possible outcomes, everything from basically nothing bad happens to the world ends. But in between, there are a lot of gradations that a world in which the government has the powers it does right now, plus a little more data from large companies, plus a few more legal powers to get data off of devices by hacking them or compelling providers to assist them. That looks pretty different from a world in which an online army of trolls basically descends upon anybody who gets recognized as a sufficiently serious enemy of Trump. And those are possibilities. If you want to defend yourself against the online trolls, the casual hackers, the kinds of things you're going to wind up doing look kind of like what you do to secure yourself against a lot of casual criminals. That you would really want to secure your accounts for this reason. You want to make it hard for somebody to take over your email and shunt all of your online presence and hijack everything else you do. You want to watch your vulnerability to cloud backups. There are convergences between the threats from different sources, and this became an exercise for me and my friends in threat modeling in a where we don't know what the threats will all be. Some things are hygiene, some things are things that you do to be in the habit, to be in a mindful practice in relation to security. And for that reason, going through this exercise of talking about what secures us is also a way of engaging with the world. It's a way of saying, what is it about our current political environment, about our technical environment, about our social environment that we should be worried about? Where is it that things could change? Where is it that we could cause change? Talking about what kinds of precautions you take when you are going to different kinds of meetings is a way of also thinking about the ways in which you can engage in communities and politics for positive impact. And it's a way of thinking about where you are connecting. People asked, in some cases I had no good ideas for where to go in an area, and found like there's actually this large gap in what we study. And if I were, a researcher working in those fields, I have a list of places in which somebody could do something very helpful and add to our store of knowledge. And in other places, it was really like the things that people say over and over about using a password manager. Let me talk through this one more time, and maybe having this come from me in your social network will be more meaningful than having it get repeated by some expert standing up at a podium with a microphone. I got quite legitimate questions. Why are you doing this inside Mark Zuckerberg's empire? Why are you putting this inside the Facebook space? And that was partly because that was where I started doing it. It felt small and personal at the time. I made a switch about a third of the way through the series from making the posts visible to friends to the world. And I had to negotiate that pretty carefully because I didn't want people's comments to wind up being inadvertently public when they didn't mean to be. I wound up keeping a permanent index to it on my blog so that I had the advice all collected, and so that right now when I need to go back and review it, I actually could find them, which I couldn't have done if it were just inside of Facebook. This also brought home to me just how much we live in an environment defined by these kinds of trade-offs. That certainly the surveillance costs of Facebook, of pervasive surveillance in public, look differently when you engage in them in this way. But the thing that I really felt I walked away from this at the end was not just that telling my friends what they should do also forced me to clean up my act in significant ways. Forced me to actually think through what things do I keep in paper, what do I use to lock down my own phone, and damn it, I'm going to get the HTTPS certificate for my own websites. Like actually finally going through and doing that, which I've been putting off for several years. it also proved to be, for me at least, a way of coping. It was a way of taking myself out of the near existential despair and reducing it to some kind of more manageable despair level, at least functional. The one foot in front of another daily practice of living with security without, as Finn says, going crazy. And I don't have any great big lessons from this. I think everybody's own engagement with these questions is going to be different. We've heard now, if you count some of the presentations from the first panels, 5, 6 different views that rhyme with each other but put the stresses in different places. And I think everybody's individual experience of tactical security is going to be different for that reason. People have different lives with different important things they value. They are worried about slightly different things and have maybe different reasons to be afraid. But living inside with it and living with it is something that everybody does, and I guess better to do it with your eyes open.
So I know we're running a little bit late. It's already 5:03, so if anyone has to run, totally understand. Is this even on? Yeah?